Welcome to MissouriNet.com. I'm Bill Pollock, back from our holiday break with Jason West of MSHSAA. Jason, happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. Glad everything worked out over the break for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate you joining us again as we start up our discussions with high school sports here at MissouriNet.com, which is brought to you by the Department of Health and Senior Services. It's flu season. We've been lucking out with the weather, but listen, you still got to get your flu vaccine. So go to mo.gov and click on the flu vaccine locator near you. Jason, you guys are jumping right into area meetings that you'll have with, I guess, principals and athletic directors. And you'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks, starting on Wednesday. Can you tell us a little bit about what these meetings are all about, and then we can break down some of the topics?
Sure. This is one of the semi-annual, or I guess you'd say semi-annual, but we have two major meetings that we meet with administrators, both, like you said, principals and athletic directors throughout the year. We have the one at the beginning of the year where we go over any new bylaw changes or anything that might affect this coming academic year. And then the area meetings that we have here in January are basically the starting points for new bylaws and new regulations, things like that. This is where we discuss kind of big picture items and things like that with the athletic directors and the administrators that are there, get a sense of what the membership would like. That would then lead us into the questionnaire that is in February. So a lot of these topics, if the membership feels like it needs to have more information or more discussion on it, then they get put on the questionnaire, which is basically a survey of the membership, which ultimately leads to things being placed on the ballot in April. So this is kind of the starting point of getting new regulations or any new policies and procedures put in place.
So, I mean, realistically, this is a pretty quick turnaround. You could talk about it in January, have the questionnaire in February, vote on it in April, and then for the following school year, it's enacted and ready to go.
Right, and that's why when we say there's lots of discussion, there's plenty of opportunities there to get as much information out as we can. This is one way if people do have questions on certain things, then they can get those questions answered right then and there at the meetings. Or, as always, they can pick up the phone and call us and ask us. But this is one of the ways to get information out so people know what's going on, what's being talked about, and then ultimately what's going to be voted on.
If there's a new rule or a bylaw that comes up, is it brought to your attention from schools? Can parents bring up concerns? Is that how it kind of develops?
Yes, and somewhat. Most of, if not everything, comes from the membership. If we do have parents or grandparents or family members or just fans that would like to propose something, our first step is we ask them to speak with their local school. And if their local school wants to be on board, then that's how the process gets started. Rarely do we take something directly from a parent or a family member, because we're here to serve our member schools. And so that one particular view from one parent or family may not even work for their local school system. And so we need the local schools to buy in on it as well. And we go from there. So our first step is to ask them to talk to their local school. If their local school doesn't buy into it, then we can take it further if we think that that's something that the membership would like.
We're talking with Jason West, the communications director for MSHSAA. There's 8 area meetings coming up across the state, and we'll have those dates listed at MissouriNet.com with this story. Some of the topics that will be discussed that I found interesting. One is basketball, and the question that's going to be asked or raised is, should the bylaw be changed to allow students to play in 2 tournaments during the same week, but it cannot be on 2 teams in the same tournament? So playing 2 tournaments during the same week. Talk a little bit about how that could possibly work and why that might be an issue.
Where that's really an issue are what you can call the swing players. You've got your varsity team and you've got your junior varsity team, and at some schools there's going to be 3, 4, 5 different players that will play, are members of the varsity team, but they mostly play JV and are backups on the varsity team. And so there will be times where the varsity team is playing in tournament A, the junior varsity team is filling a spot or is in a junior varsity tournament somewhere else, and those may be at the same time on the same weekend or during the same week. And the current bylaw stipulates that you cannot play in 2 tournaments. And so you have to pick a team. Either you're a varsity member this week and not a JV member, or you're a JV member and not a varsity. And so what this is asking is, should those players be allowed to have the option of playing in both tournaments, as long as they're not in the same tournament? Sometimes a team will drop out and a JV team or the local JV team will fill that spot, and their varsity team is already in that tournament. And so you couldn't play on both of those teams and have 2 teams in the same tournament, but you could possibly play in 2 different sites.
All right, very interesting. Now, one that I'm going to assume that this comes up every year. I know you guys had to face some state legislators to talk about this, but whether or not homeschool students could represent or compete with a MSHSAA member school, is that something that does come up and is talked about on a yearly basis?
It is in some fashion. In fact, I think there's also some talk of some other types of legislation that will also lead into this same subject of homeschool participants participating at a local level. But there always seems to be some sort of discussion on allowing homeschool participants at the local level.
And then another topic that jumped out at me is talking about random drug testing for all student athletes in the state. Talk a little bit more about that. Are there any policies that are in place right now? Is it on a school-by-school basis? Are you looking to make this a membership or a member-wide policy?
Right now, it is a local school decision on how to do that. We have not had a formal survey of how many schools actually have a drug testing program. Just kind of in some small straw polls, it does seem that there is a majority of the membership have some sort of policy in place, be it for all student athletes. Some schools have it for anyone that wants to park on campus has to go through a drug testing program. And some schools just have random, say every 2 weeks, there's going to be 8 student athletes or people that participate in activities are going to be drug tested just on a random basis, and basically pick your name out of a hat type situation. So there's a number of scenarios there that, like I said, we haven't done a formal survey of, but just talking to administrators and, hey, do you do this or do you do that? There does seem to be a lot of those that have some sort of program in place. One of the topics at the interim committee a couple of months ago was there is a legislator that would like to implement drug testing statewide. And so this is kind of to get those discussions out there of, what do you do now? What are you doing? What are you looking at doing? And things like that.
And then finally, there's just about 11 different topics on here. We won't go through all of them, but just one more. One I know that's been a big hot button issue for you guys, and in particular, Dr. Kerwin Erhan, this push of why we play and getting the right message across from players, coaches, administrators, and that continues to be something that you make a strong push for.
Yeah, that's certainly one that we want to definitely get out there and get people talking about why are we doing this? Is it just because we want the rings, or is it because we actually want to help mold young lives and make them productive citizens? And there's a variety of ways of doing that. Obviously, everyone likes to win, but does the scoreboard, is that the final win, or is the character and the individual development that goes along with participating in extracurricular activities why we're really wanting to do it? Are we being reactionary, or are we being transformative? And so there's a reason why that's the number one topic for these meetings. Dr. Erhan wanted to get everyone involved and get them talking right off the bat, and hopefully through those discussions at the beginning of the meeting, that will help lead to some very informative discussions for the other 10 topics that we have down for these meetings.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I love the why we play. I was just over the weekend getting ready to kind of get back into the new year and clean things up around my desk. I came across, and this is going back about 5 years ago when I coached my son's 7th grade basketball elementary school. I had a one sheet, Jason. It's just one sheet that had one offensive basketball play on it, and we were basically a team of misfits. We were the 7th grade B team. And nobody wanted to volunteer to coach. I'd coached other sports. I think I coached basketball for, like kindergarten kids. Had no clue myself. So we had one offensive play, ran a 2-3 zone. And I thought, boy, I just hope we can score some points. And we went 3-7. But it was, I'll tell you, it was one of the best experiences I had, because those kids, they bust their butt. And that's amazing. You come away from it. I was looking at, and then I found the picture, our team picture, and this one offensive sheet with all my scribble notes on it. It brought back great memories of, what? Yeah, we went 3-7, and we got blown out when we got into our little end of season tournament. But that was a lot of fun, and I still see a couple of those kids now, and they talk about it. So, and that's really what it's all about in building that up. And so, yeah, it was kind of neat going through that old stuff and looking at my scribble notes. I'm still surprised that they won 3 games with me running things. But anyway, yeah.
Well,
so
sometimes it's not the coaching. The coach just rolls the balls out there so they can practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So they did it all on their own. So, all right, we'll follow back up on this topic in a couple of weeks and see how the different area meetings went all over the state, and covering these different topics. And that's all at MissouriNet.com. Jason West joins us every week. We took a couple of weeks off with the holidays, but now we're back into full swing. And these Hangouts with MSHSAA are brought to you by the Missouri NEA. If there was a teacher, coach, or school employee that affected your life in a positive way, they want you to tell your story at teacherwordsmatter.org for a chance for you to win $500. Jason, thanks a lot, and have a great week.
You too. Thank you, Bill.
Yep. And thanks for watching us here at MissouriNet.com.